There was no miracle. There was no snap of the fingers.
Right.
And it was confidence. And I think confidence builds as you go on. If you have a good success, closing the door on Bloomingdale's was at one point sort of crazy, and at the same time was amazingly powerful.
Fashion is changing so fast, and a competition is coming up every day with all these young designers. What has kept you going forward like this?
You just somehow, you know, I've always admired longevity. I've admired people that were not of the only moment, people that can carry it on. There are actors, there are musicians, there are people that came up in rock and roll, and the great ones stayed. Frank Sinatra lasted, you know, the whole pile of names that, you know, Paul McCartney and the Beatles, they didn't last for 5 years or 10 years, they lasted for 40 years. I admired longevity, and I admired consistency, and I admired the individuality of holding your own, and standing and fighting for what you believe in. And I think if there's anything that I really believe in is that. And what made me keep going, I didn't get great reviews every year. People didn't just say you're wonderful. In fact, they couldn't care less, Ralph Lauren, but the consumer loved Ralph Lauren. It's not the fashion editor.
Where are you most yourself, and when are you most yourself?
I'm always myself.
That's a great answer. But like sitting here on the porch right now in your dude stuff
It's
here.
a part of me.
It's a part of you.
I'm not a cowboy all the time. I don't propose to be a cowboy. You know, but I love the West. I love ranching. I love the idea of it.
Is it like creating
Absolutely.
little movies
The
for
way
yourself?
I work is I feel like I'm doing movies. Everything I do. If you said just design that dress for that girl, or design, I couldn't do it. But if you say she lives in a mansion, or she lives in Soho and she's an artist, I could design exactly how she should look, how her hair should be, what she should be wearing, and I create a world around her. And I pin her up on the wall, and I said, now I know what she needs.
What were some of the most challenging moments in your career?
Well, I had, when I started out and made the ties and shirts, I started to become successful. It was after about 10 years, I had started my company by borrowing $50,000 from another person in the industry. He lent me the $50,000, he became my partner. And so all of a sudden we were growing, and all of a sudden I got a phone call from the banker and said, Mr. Lauren, your bills are not being paid on time. And I had a team thinking they were doing all the right things. And all of a sudden I found that I was in trouble financially because I was taking on too many things and no one told me to stop. And I was being applauded for many ways, but on some levels, on the financial level, I was not being applauded. And one of the bankers came to me and said, Ralph, you're almost out of business. What are you going to do?
That was 10 years after you started?
That was about 10 years after I started. But I remember the pain. And I took everything I had saved, which was $100,000, and I put it back in the company. $100,000 was all I had left. And I decided to license some of the brands and have some money coming in. And so it gave me a shot to go out and hire better people. And so that was a very important moment of seeing success in terms of artistic success, but failure in terms of a company that could go wrong in its finances. And that was a very important time. And so that was a very major moment in my life. I've had those every 5 years. I had a show where I remember doing a fashion show, and the clothes weren't ready, and the tailors were ironing or sewing the clothes as the girl is about to walk out the runway.
What did you figure out? What happened to make it so late? Too many things at hand.
Of not getting the right professionals, not planning well, not thinking you got it going, and all of a sudden, and I said to myself, as I was walking on Broadway, not knowing where I was going. I said, this is never going to happen again.